but you know.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you could please take your seats. The marching band is going to be making their way down the aisles. Don't want anyone to get run over. With that said, please welcome the Hibbing High School marching band and alumni cheerleaders from 1983 to present. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to 100-year celebration of athletics here at Hibbing High School. First of all, a warm applause for the marching band and our alumni cheerleaders. My name is John Buzzicchini, and For those that graduated with me, I'm sure somebody's going to yell it out. Why don't you stand on a stool so we can see you? So, on June 20th, I got a text message from R.J. Thiel, asked me to call him. And so I gave him a call, and he asked me if I kind of knew what was going on with the 100-year celebration. I told him I did. And he immediately started talking about athletic night, and he listed all of the speakers that are going to be before you here this evening. And after he kind of went on, he said, and would you be interested in emceeing? And I'm humbled and honored to have accepted that opportunity to stand before you here today to introduce some just fantastic human beings that have had great success, not only within the walls of this building, but also as they've gone on out into the real world in their chosen professions. And so I want to thank RJ for reaching out to me, and he turned me over to Kim McLaughlin. I also want to thank her for all of her help. Stephanie Carlson for when I got here tonight, prepping me and things that I didn't know I was doing. And can't say how appreciative I am, and on behalf of all of you, for all the people that have put in the hard work, that had the vision for this week, and then went about the organizing of it. One of the visionaries for this was Kathy Bugliosi-Nyberg. She unfortunately passed in January. She was a classmate of mine. Just a fantastic organizer on top of things. And I believe that the work that's being done by Kim and all of the others are going to make Kathy very proud. So let's give them all another round of applause. After agreeing to do this, my mind went in 8 million directions as I started thinking about all of the athletes that have come through Hibbing over the last 100 years. We could spend a week just talking about them because there have been so many. And I'm honored to be able to introduce some of them to you here tonight. Our first speaker was a trailblazer in women's hockey. Amber Frickin graduated from Hibbing and led them to a state championship in, I believe it was 97, and then they took second place again the next year. She went on to play her college hockey. She started in Mankato, finished in Bemidji, and playing 3 years in Bemidji, she still is their all-time leading scorer, and was a trailblazer for that program, playing at the Division I level. She got into coaching right away. Coached at the Duluth Northern Stars for a period of time, and then was an assistant at Hermantown Proctor before getting called back to the college ranks, where she served the last 5 years as the associate head coach of Bemidji State. Served as an assistant there before that. And just this year in April, she was named the head coach of the Bemidji State women's hockey team. With that, Amber Frickin.
Wow, I don't know how you did that without notes. Great job. No pressure here starting first. Wow. Thank you all for being here tonight. It's an honor to be here and share this evening with you all. I also want to thank the committee that has put so much work into this event and all of the events celebrating Hibbing High School this week. My athletic journey started as a young kid growing up playing all sports. I quickly found that I loved playing hockey the most, but at the time there was no girls' hockey opportunities. I spent most of my time playing unorganized hockey at the Greenhaven and Jefferson rinks and was the only girl on the rink. I started playing boys hockey in 4th grade, and since I was the only girl on my team, my locker room was in the janitor closet at the Fairgrounds Arena. And if any of you have ever been in the Fairgrounds Arena, the janitor closet, it's not that great of a place. My teammates and coaches were receptive, having a girl on their team, but it was not always easy being the only girl. When it was time for me to move on to play Pee Wee boys, I decided to play basketball instead, which was not my favorite sport. Sorry for our basketball fans out there. But there was no future in girls hockey at the time. So lucky for me, there was 3 other girls that were older than me at the time that were playing boys hockey. And they were going to be in high school, and there was no opportunities for them either. So one of their dads started a girls team. His name was Jim Madsey, and we have a lot to owe to him for starting girls hockey in our community. So he started a club team, and it was in my 8th grade year. We were called the Mighty Rangers, and we included players from all over the range. Some of us had played boys hockey before, but many of our teammates had never skated before. We played in tournaments all over. We won the Minnesota Amateur Hockey Association at the time Senior B Division state tournament. I actually just had to go through some old clippings to figure out what we actually played in, and that's what we played in, Senior B Division. We were playing against women that were like 50 and 40 years old at the time. We had a team for 2 years, and we were just happy to be able to play. And then girls hockey in the state of Minnesota changed. The Minnesota State High School League adopted girls hockey as a sanctioned sport in 1993-94. That was my freshman year here at Hibbing High School. We were still playing for the Mighty Rangers that year, but during that year we advocated for a high school team in Hibbing. I never understood why it was such a big deal that we had to advocate and convince people to add girls hockey. We just literally wanted a chance to play. Lucky for us, Hibbing High School adopted girls hockey in the 1994-95 year, which was my sophomore year, and they say the rest is history. This one opportunity has literally changed my life and has impacted me in so many ways. Our first season, we didn't know what to expect. We had girls that had played before with our Mighty Rangers team, but we also had many players that had never played hockey before as well. That season, we went 16-0. We never lost a game. Surprised ourselves, but we did lose the section championship game that year to Blaine, 4-3. I don't remember all of our games, but I do remember significant games, and this was one of them. Losing this game to go to state was something that stuck with me and was a valuable life lesson in learning how to deal with loss and how much we can learn from that experience. My junior year was the highlight season of my high school career. We were determined to go to the state tournament. We had a good year. We won many games. We lost a few games, and we did reach our goal to make it to the state tournament. Our first game was against the undefeated team, Roseville. They had a team, I think, for 2 or 3 years, but they were like 52-0. They had never lost a game. And no one thought that we were able to beat them. They beat us during the season pretty bad twice. So no one thought we had a chance, and we believed that we could beat them. And we were down 3-1 in that opening game, and we came back to tie the game 3-3. There was about 30 seconds left in the third period, and our Coach Rendell, he called a timeout. The faceoff was in our defensive zone, so I just assumed he was going to call us in and say, win the faceoff, don't screw this up, get into overtime. But he didn't say that. He said, hey, let's win this game right now. And we were all like, yeah, let's win this game right now. So the State Fairgrounds Coliseum, if you've ever been in there, that's where the state girls tournament was, and I'll never forget it. The band was playing, and every time I hear the Hibbing band play, just when I came in here tonight, it brings me back to that state tournament game. The band was there, half the town of Hibbing was there supporting us, and being in that environment for girls hockey at the time was pretty special. There had to have been 2,000-3,000 people there at the game at the time, and that was pretty significant. Anyway, back to the face-off. So I go down to take the face-off in our defensive zone, and I lost it, but my line mate Beth Wolf knew probably I was going to lose the face-off, and so she jumped on the puck and she picked it off, and she beat the Roseville D down the ice and beat the Roseville goaltender and scored with about 18 seconds left in the game. And it's a moment, I remember exactly where I was on the ice. It gives me chills thinking about it today. I'll never forget that moment. And we did win that game 4-3 in regulation, like Coach Reynolds said we should. For our second game, we played Blaine, and the team that had beat us the year before to go to the state tournament. We won that game, and then that brought us to the state championship game. We played Egan in the state championship game. They had a 7th grader on their team. Her name was Natalie Darwich. She's kind of a big deal if you don't know who she is. She was one of the best players in the country, probably the world, as a 7th grader. But we played Egan, and the game was back and forth, and at one point it was tied 3-3, and we ended up winning that game 6-3 and winning the state championship that year. That state tournament run and winning the state championship was special because of who we did it with. Our team was so close. We all were so grateful for the opportunity to play the game we loved. We were close friends on and off the ice, and we shared a bond that continues today. I'd also like to note that this was also the year that the high school had a fire in the science wing, if anyone remembers that. I think we missed like a month or so of school during the hockey season, which was incredible. And our team spent most every day at the outdoor rink, spending time together doing something fun, and I have to believe that the time we spent at the outdoor rink and together as a team had a lot to do with the success we had on the ice and the close friendships that we had and continue to have today. My senior year, we had another great season. Again, we won games, we lost a few. We made a state tournament run again that year. We played Roseville again in the opening game, and we beat them again. We made it to the state championship game, and we played Apple Valley. And we lost that game 1-0 in overtime. And it was a heartbreaking loss to be that close and lose that game. But my 3 seasons playing hockey at Hibbing High School provided me so many great opportunities and experiences. I met some of my best friends and friendships that have lasted to this day, and it also provided me the opportunity to continue to play hockey. Once again, I was at the right time and place in girls hockey history, as college women's hockey was just starting to form in Minnesota during my high school career. Just as I was entering college, the NCAA adopted women's Division I ice hockey as a sport, and the women's WCHA was formed. I played my college hockey at Bemidji State University, had the opportunity to be a part of the start of the women's WCHA as a player, and receive a great education. I always wanted to be a teacher and a coach. When I was growing up, being a college women's hockey coach was certainly not an option. But once I realized that it was something I could maybe do one day, I knew that was something I wanted to work towards eventually. I started teaching and coaching right out of college, and after 8 years of teaching and coaching at the K-12 level, I got a dream job offer at Bemidji State as an assistant coach. I spent the last 13 years at BSU as an assistant coach, an associate head coach. I spent time as an assistant professor after completing my doctorate degree, and came back to coaching last year. And I'll be beginning my 14th year at BSU and my first year serving as our head coach of our program. To be able to coach where you played has been really special for me. The opportunity to play hockey at Hibbing High School has opened doors for me in hockey, in coaching, and education, and has taught me life lessons in leadership, perseverance, teamwork, and hard work, and most importantly, has given me lifelong friendships. The friendships and relationships that I've made because of my hockey journey is something that I'm grateful for each day. When I reflect upon the last 26 years since leaving Hibbing High School, I'm able to see the growth of girls' women's hockey. We went from the only option for a girl to play was to play on a boys' team and dress in a janitor's closet, to women's hockey as an Olympic sport. The girls' Minnesota State Tournament played at the XL Energy Center, NCAA College Women's Hockey National Championships, women's hockey on national TV, female hockey players competing in NHL skill competitions, and most recently the PWHL, which is a professional women's hockey league, where women and girls get to dream and live out their dream of being a professional playing hockey. And most recently, the first female assistant coach in the NHL with the Seattle Kraken. So to see that and be a part of it all has been really, really special for me. And to think that it started all here at Hibbing High School for me is something that I am truly grateful for every single day. I'm thankful to Hibbing High School for the chance I had to play the game that I love, for the experiences I had because of hockey, and for the lifelong memories and friendships that I've made along the way. The opportunity I had here at Hibbing High School. Play the game of hockey has given me so much in my life, and something I'm grateful for each day. Thank you, Go Blue Jackets.
So, I played hockey. I was a 3-year letter winner in hockey and a 5-year letter winner in baseball. In my senior year in hockey, I was a senior captain. And it was back when the WHA still existed, so there was a team from Chicago that used to come train, and they made a special locker room for them. Well, that locker room is currently the Hibbing High School locker room, so we wound up inheriting that. So back in the 70s, it was a pretty elaborate locker room for a high school team. And there were benches throughout the locker room, except right away in my senior year, a dad brought in a chair. It had my name on it, on the back, with my number. Back of the chair was blue. And upon me getting out of college, I got into coaching right away. And over the time, brought 5 different teams back to Hibbing. And there was a purpose to bring them back. And I knew that this chair, with my name on it, was still in that locker room. So when we got a tour of the locker room, I'd say, oh yeah, there's the chair. And they'd all look at me like, you don't have your name on the back of it. I'd show them the chair, and name was on the back of it, with the number. Now, they painted the chair red. Used to be blue, but you can still see the number, and it says Buzz back there. Well, this chair was made by our next speaker, Bill Gillo Sr. And coming on is going to be his daughter, Carrie, who was a classmate of mine in '77. Oh, by the way, she was a cheerleader. She should have been part of that alumni cheerleading group. Same with Lynn McHale. But then we could have gone back to '77 instead of '83. But Carrie is going to give a little background on Bill Sr. because I'm a little nervous sitting this close to the chief of police.
Welcome all of you here to this beautiful, amazing auditorium. The last time I was on this stage right here was in 1977. I was in a play where I sang Belly Up to the Bar Boys. I think my dad was pretty proud of that. When I went to high school here, I didn't appreciate how amazing this school is and the auditorium until I left Hibbing and saw other high schools. I kind of thought they were all, Dad, how well did you make this chair? I just thought all high schools were like this, and it's just not true. I feel honored to be here to introduce our next guest. I've known this man for 65 years now. I know some of you might know him as coach or officer, mentor, or friend. And I'm blessed to call him Dad. Yeah, he says yeah. One thing very few people do know, though, is that he's also a poet. My daughter made a book of his poems, and one of his favorite ones was about daughters, and she left that one out of there, so we have to do a second edition. My dad was in 4 high school sports: hockey, baseball, football, and track. And he still has lots of stories to tell us about that. Oh, one of the best ones, though, was he said he got teased because he said the kids would call him butter blades. And I said, why, Dad? And he said, well, we were so poor with 11 kids in the family, and I was the youngest boy, and I couldn't afford skates, so Mom tied butter knives to the bottom of my boots. And I was up at Greenhaven Check, and there was still a little bit of butter on my blades, somebody said. Poor Dad. He was really inspired by his high school years and his athletics between 1949 and 53. My dad was and still is one to always go for the underdog too, and I just love that about him. He loved his sports, and he was also involved in a few other activities and clubs, and I was looking through his yearbook, and he was part of the Friends of Foreigners Club. I don't think we have that Friends of Foreigners when I was in high school. That was interesting, but, so I thought, well, he was on the 1952 hockey team that beat Evelyn after a 2-game winning streak. So I thought that would probably be his highlight and his proudest moment. But he said, what did you say your highlight was?
When we beat Evelyn and they had 79-game winning streak.
Because he told me it was in football. He had Herman Frickin for a coach, and what did you do?
I ran for a 70-yard touchdown pass against Grand Rapids.
For sure would be hockey. And then baseball ended up being your longest career because after high school he went to the Army, into the Army.
And I played for Fort Leonard Wood in the 5th Army tournament. That was quite an honor.
So that he did. He played. Oh, and then also Mr. Nyberg, L. Nyberg, who was on his baseball team in high school. They ended up coaching Little League for Erickson Lumber for many years. They coached together, and they played in high school together. So his sports really carried on into a lot of other facets of his life. And let's see. Oh, and when he went into the law enforcement profession and was a juvenile officer, that's when he really got involved in boxing. However, when he was 14 to 15 years old, he went undefeated in boxing, but he couldn't go to the state tournament because he was too young. And then he started playing high school sports. But after school in the Army, he went into law enforcement. And when he was a juvenile officer, and there'd be fights in the street, and he'd have to go break up fights, and he'd get called, and somebody'd be kind of beat up. He'd say, "Well, I can take you down to the jail, spend the night in jail, or you can come to the boxing gym Monday morning." So he got a lot of good fighters that way. Right? Even somebody that went to nationals a couple times that just passed away.
Yeah, one of the greatest athletes that ever came out of Hibbing was Cedric Littlewolf. He was a 4-time state champion, and he was a 4-time participated in the national tournament, and he was runner-up twice. Outstanding athlete, and a good kid.
Dad ended up getting involved in other sports through the years up until his golden years. He played a lot of horseshoes, and we had a lot of mornings when we were woken at the lake by 5:30 in the morning, clink, 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 practicing his horseshoes. And he had the covered horseshoe pits over in Bennett Park. He was instrumental in getting that done.
That enclosed court at Bennett Park, Harvey Huttery and myself, we raised the money to build that arena. And Gino Palucci gave us $35,000, and IRRB gave us $35,000, and we raised the rest. And that's how horseshoe becomes so special in Hibbing.
Okay, we even had a world tournament here. So, all the sports that my dad was involved in, he's written quite a few poems. Dad, what made you get interested in writing poetry in the first place?
How I started, I got up in the evening, and my wife was looking out the window towards the lake, and I got inspired by that, and that was the first poem I wrote. I can recite it, I guess. I look out my window to greet each new day. Day breaks and night falls, heading my way. Now I've had special moments that only were mine. Some brought their sadness, and others were fine. Wildflowers in the springtime, ducks in the fall. I've seen those fish jumping, and I've heard those loons call. Winter was special with kids out to play. jumping and sliding each in their own way. I've seen nature at work as the frost bites the glass. The patterns were awesome, as they were in the past. Then suddenly I see the bats out to play and realize that midnight is fast on its way. I think of tomorrow and what it will bring. Will the raindrops be falling, or will the birds sing as I stand by my window and call it a day? That's the first how it got started.
I remembered that one still, so we'll dedicate that one to Mom. And the one that the sports inspired the most, or this one that he wrote about the locker room.
I was inspired to write this poem because it entertains sports. Our locker room's special. There's some things you should know. Your personal needs become second to team goals. You came here, youngster, please understand that we're helping each other to become better men. So don't get all wrapped up in I did this or that. Only reflect it in your team's total stats. Let's do this together in defeats or with wins. When your teammates are down, help to lift up their chins. Each teammate is special, so treat them as such. One never knows who will come through in the clutch. We're building a tradition, each brick must be laid. This thing that we're molding, don't cause it to sway. Our team's on the move now, still track to be laid. The grade's getting steeper, there's a price to be paid. When your tour has expired, accept it in stride. You'll always be welcome because you helped build this bride.
I have one more thing to say, I guess.
My daughter's favorite poem, I might as well recite it. This has to do with the homemaker area where I grew up. Donald Sandlin Sr., we could go into his garage, we were always welcome. We couldn't bother him too much. And he had a boy named Donnie, or Finn boy, who got killed in Korea. And so that's part of this too, I guess. I'll remember this young boy, I'll refer to as lad. This neighbor once told me this kid had no dad. He would come to my workshop and just hang around, watching me labor, a new hangout he'd found. He began asking questions about subjects at school. We worked out some answers on a dusty slide rule. One day I went fishing, thought I'd ask him along. A friendship was growing on that false frozen ground. Now there were other days like that as lad grew up tall. Then suddenly war came and our friendship was stalled. We exchanged weekly letters as we promised to do. My heart would get heavy when he missed one or two. He would tell me of hard times and the battles they'd won. I would relay the home news and the things that I had done. Then suddenly the war ended and he reached me by phone. I was there at the station when the train brought him home. As the rain fell upon us and we just stood out there with this feeling of closeness that two men only share. I said, somehow I missed you. And this boy known as lad hug me and kiss me. I missed you too, Dad. Now there's a lesson I'll pass on to you fellows out there. If a boy comes around you, please show him your care. Don't judge him at first sight. If he's dirty or sad, just drop what you're doing. This could be your lad. Thank you so much.
I didn't realize he was going to go into overtime, but I think he won.
My only advice to you people is don't get old. I gotta go back to Nashwauk, what is that, Guardian? Hillcrest, for the people that can't handle themselves too good. And tomorrow we got wheelchair racing. And this thing that I got, we got a little race. Thank you so much.
Curveballs. So our next person is going to be a special tribute to somebody very, very special. And so I just learned about this tonight. Fortunately for me, I know the person. He grew up 4 houses from me. And that is the sports editor of the Mesabi Tribune, Gary Jambetty. Gary, you know, as the saying goes, life happens when you have something else planned. Gary didn't plan to be a sports editor, but Dan Anderson approached him one day, and his life has changed since then. And I know I can speak to you from somebody that grew up with Gary. He loves the community. He loves covering sports. And you know, when you go to a sporting event, when it's all over, you get to go home. Somebody that is a writer, their job just begins. He's probably had interviews earlier in the day with coaches. He gets to cover the event when it's there and take notes on it. And then when everyone goes home, he's actually got to write the story. And Gary does a phenomenal job of covering not only Hibbing athletics, but athletics across the Iron Range. And so Gary's a UMD grad, actually UMD and Bemidji, with degrees in health and physical education. His aim was to teach, but he wound up, and you're going to do it forever, Gary. So I just want to say what an honor it is to recognize you as not only a special person, but a great contributor to this community. And I know you don't like speaking, but we're going to make you.
You can take that stool away now. I don't need to stand on it. But I appreciate the applause. It's been like 36 years now, I think, since I started at the Tribune. A lot of changes. Technology obviously gets better and better every year. I've had a blast covering all the Hibbing High School sports over the years. I've seen a lot of great accomplishments by a lot of the teams. I've met a lot of very fine people in the athletic director's office that helped me a lot in helping me do my job. And it's just, it's amazing that I'm up here speaking. I really didn't think I'd be up here. My wife didn't want me up here, but she's the one who came and got me to walk up here. I didn't know this was going to happen. So, you know, the memories are fantastic. Amber, I don't think, said enough about that year they won the state title. I mean, when she was talking about it, I got tears in my eyes because that's how special that was. You know, in high school, I got to watch the 2 basketball teams go to state, and it's unfortunate that things didn't work out for them, but I played basketball for a couple of years and got to practice with those gentlemen, and that was a special thing too, to be around that group of individuals. I don't know, the 2017 baseball team placed second at the state that year, but they were trailing 6-1 or something going into the bottom of the 7th inning, and they put a rally together and scored 7 runs and won 8-7. So they ended up playing at Target Field, and that was a blast to go down there and cover that game. I know Waconia beat them that day, but that was a special group of players. And there's a lot of other ones. I don't even think I can remember all the stuff, because it's been a lot of games, a lot of stories, a lot of interactions with the coaches. I mean, I know Gail Nich is coming up here shortly. It was a pleasure working with her and watching her volleyball teams compete at state just about every year. I mean, she was such a fantastic coach that her players laid it all out on the line for her, and they always were competitive in Section 7A or AAA or whatever section they were in at the time, and it was fun covering them. A lot of watching great hockey players, like unfortunately Adam Johnson is not with us anymore, but he was a great person and a great player to watch. Scotty Perunovich, another one. It was fun watching him, and then your new hockey coach, Aaron Jambetty, was a great hockey player, along with the DeSanzo boys and all the other ones on those teams that went to state. So I have nothing but fond memories. I'm glad Dan Anderson asked me if I wanted a job, and I didn't think they believed in me, but they did. And it worked out, so I appreciate being here, and thank you for showing up to this great event.
Gotta get the stool back out. Which reminds me, senior year, Jack and Jamboree, I was a nominee for King candidate, so we're in the hallway and we gotta take pictures, and I don't know if there was one short enough to walk with me, but I think Tracy Erickson was my partner. I could barely see over her head. So you go back to that yearbook and you look at the picture of the Jack and Jamboree, and I'm standing on 4 books. So the joke about the stool is long-standing. Now, I talked about great athletes roaming the halls and building their foundation of industriousness, friendship, loyalty, cooperation. But somebody has to teach that to the players and athletes in order for it to take hold. And our next speaker is a legend. She's in multiple Hall of Fames. She coached multiple sports here at Hibbing High School. Probably most recognized and famous for her tenure as a volleyball coach, winning a state title in 1975 and making more than 20 trips, I believe, if I remember right, to the state tournament. She touched a lot of young women's lives, and her teams were just really, really fun to watch. They were disciplined. They played for each other. And it is an honor to introduce our next speaker, Gail Nich.
Thanks. I thought you needed it. Anyhow, I'd like to thank the committee that put this all together. Thank you for doing this. The other thing is that I would have to ask Gary Jambetty. He knows that I love to speak. Every time he would ask for an interview, I go, I don't know, I had nothing to say. So to get me up here, they had to go after my daughter, and so Kim and Marcia said, Crystal, get her here, get her here, get her here. So here I am. I'm not the best speaker, but so be it. Okay, I started here in 1969, so I'm one of the fixtures in Hibbing High School. When we came, there was very limited athletics for girls. There was synchronized swimming and there was gymnastics. Gymnastics was a compulsory, so they gave you a book and they'd say, 3 steps to this corner, do a pirouette or whatever. I would read it and I'd go to that corner and the judge would say, you're going to the wrong corner. So as soon as I could, I got rid of that gymnastics because me and my flexibility, which is none, decided to move on to other areas. So the thing that was left for girls athletics was GAA. And GAA is girls athletics. So those are what we had to play by. And I know even I came from Greenway, so today we'd play basketball. Tomorrow we'd play softball. And whatever was on the agenda, we would do it. So since I was hired to teach physical education, which is the basics of all activities, if you don't have a basics and a good understanding, your program's gonna fail. So I think we did that. And then they gave me a study hall 200. You know where 200 is? It was called the meat line. And I'll tell you one situation that happened. I was new, and of course I tried to wear a skirt and all that. And they put you on a pedestal about 8 inches and a chair. So I sat down, and everybody looked at me like I was dead. And I went, what the heck? So they said, there's a tack on your chair. So I stood up and I looked around, and I didn't see no tack. I sat back down, and there was a tack, but I never felt it. Whatever. So after gymnastics, we started a track program, and the track program was basically, Pecky had boys, and of course, they had all the equipment, they had the track, and to share it with girls was kind of demeaning. But anyhow, Pecky would go to them, boys, run them over, run them over. And I would say, girls, run in a pack. They can't run you all over, they can't run you all over. So we got going, and Pecky and I, we developed a good friendship. And Pecky was an excellent hurdler, and he helped my girls learn how to hurdle and gave me pointers here and there. And so on went the track program. And what was so funny about track is that they had a shed over there to put all your equipment. I would tell the girls run 2 220s, and all of a sudden I'd look, nobody's running 2 220s. They're all hiding behind the shack. So then after that, I'm a team sport person, so I thought, I'm gonna start a softball program. So I went to the school board and I said, I would like to start a softball program. And they said, well, and of course I brought some softball players with me. I didn't want to go by myself. And anyhow, they said, well, if you have like 3 or 4 games or whatever the number was, we can try. I said, well, I already have those games. So we started the softball program, and that's how the softball program began. After the softball program, in '82, I was pregnant with a big baby, 2.5 pounds, Crystal. Anyhow, they wouldn't, I asked if I could get out of the hospital because I was at St. Mary's, because she was a preemie, and they looked at me and they said, no, doctor's not gonna excuse you, he's not in today. I said, I'm leaving. So I got out of there, we got down to the Duluth field and we were playing. And of course, we lost, but it was the playoffs, and that was starting of the softball program. And it was good, we all had a good time and everything, so. Of course, as we played different sports, things went on. And then the basketball program wasn't in existence. There was the boys basketball program, and Debbie Houghton was an excellent player. And so she played with Kevin on the B squad. And so we kind of started a girls program, and Debbie would play for the guys and would play for the girls. And then we developed that, and we coached for 3 years. In the third year, we went to state. And at the end of that, administration said, Gail, what do you like better? Do you like volleyball or do you like basketball? Of course, I said volleyball. So that was the end of the career for me in basketball. They gave to Patty Ross. You know, she was from International Falls. And I think a little bit about coaching, I think. To have a successful program, I think you have to have good basics. You have to have a good, excellent coaching staff underneath you. You have to have people that will work for you. I mean, I would say Scott Wortman and Joyce Wortman was a main function of my program. We need parents to help out as far as whatever they needed to do. We also had to have the school and the community behind us, that type of stuff. So we did well, and we had we did pretty well overall. Yeah, we did well. And like I said, it's the coaching, you know, and you have kids that want it. And I think when it gets to the point that the coach wants it more than the kids, then it's time to get out. And that's when I got out. Changes in volleyball. Volleyball has changed a lot, and when I started playing, we played a 4-2, which means 4 hitters, 2 setters, and then we went to international. We put the setter on the outside, and then we went to, you could jump serve, and you could use the end line, whole end line, and then and the serving, scoring was a little different. Sometimes it was 15, 18, 21, 25, play 2 out of 3, 3 out of 5, so. It has changed, and the main thing, I think, is the little girl, and that's the girl that you always see in the odd color shirt. And she's probably the defensive player, and that's kind of how volleyball has evolved. I think if you would like to see something like the Maine U or somebody, these Big Ten girls, you know, 6'5", hit the ball on our net, which is 7 feet 4 1/4. I mean, they put me on my goosey stuff. So I wouldn't want to be behind any of those hits, I'll tell you, for sure. So, and anyhow, then volleyball started, and it started as an extramural, and in 1974 was the first state tournament, and in 75 is when we went to state. School was canceled, snowstorm. What did they do? Send us in a bus, St. Cloud, here we come. We get down to Dibble's Cafe down there, and there's a highway patrol. He says, where are you going? St. Cloud. He said, you're not getting through. There's a snowdrift 8 feet wide and 10 feet high, or vice versa. And I go, oh. And I said, where are we staying? He said, well, I don't know. So we ended up that night staying in a church parlor. Some kids were riding the little bicycles like Debbie and all those people, but we had a good time, a little bonding there. But anyhow, then when we continued on, got to St. Cloud, our rooms had been given away from the previous night, so we had dirty rooms. And also, we played teams that came in on snowmobiles because nobody else could come in. So we had a few good things, you know, those types of things, and we happened to win in 75. Other things that have happened to us in volleyball, because We stayed in wrestling rooms because we didn't have the money. Apple Valley would just give me the keys. And I think I stayed in there 20 plus years in the wrestling room. And the lights were always on. 3/4 of them were on. So we would go up there and they had ropes from the wrestlers, and of course we had to hang on these ropes, and of course the next day our hands were sore, but we had a good time. And then we also stayed at Saga Lakes in the wrestling room, and we stayed at Lakeville in the gymnastics room where Julie Gillo almost got decapitated because Diane was playing. She teased everybody was putting like Jason, and Julie ran almost into the uneven bars. What other things that, we did they did a lot of goofy things, but it was a kind of a bonding. Your ex-AD, Megan Potter, when we were going out to Moorhead, she brought a whole bunch of, I think it was 3 white mice on the bus. You never saw a whole bunch of volleyball girls sitting on the top of the seats as these mice ran around on the floor. So for the banquet, I gave Megan a hairless white rat. Diana also would put in minnows in your sleeping bag. So, she also gave me and Pat Castagneri a beautiful box, big bow, and it rattled. Oh, okay, so we opened it up. Guess what was inside of it? A beaver's foot. Her dad had just caught a beaver, and it was just hacked off, and it was still bloody. So, we had a few things like that. So, we've been at the state like 23 times for volleyball. Many of the players. Several players went D1, D2, D3, and the junior college, Jerry Levis says, I like getting your volleyball players because they're an all-rounded player. They could set, they could hit, they could play, whatever. So that's what we did. Crystal and I were at the state tournament at the same time, and I was triple and she was double, and we didn't play each other, but then the next year I dropped down to double A, and she said, Mom, I can't go anymore. Which was true. She didn't go anywhere. We're share alike. I said, through the years, like I said, I played the athletes that were the best. I said, you also had your AD, Becky Fenstermacher, or Geiselman at the time. She played for me, and she was an 8th grader, and she started. And she was a good player, so she was good. She could hold her job, and that's who played. It wasn't because you knew this or I knew that. So the young players got to play, and if they could hold it, that was fine. I had another one that was Tammy Constantini, and we were down in the cities, and Tammy's kind of short. And all of a sudden, I look and we have 5 people. They have 7. She ran underneath the net. They didn't call it, they didn't see her, and she came back to our side and we kept on playing. So those are a few of our fun experiences. We met many coaches, new players, new kids, and the kids were great. And you see them around, and they were good. And the honors I have gotten are because of them. And again, the parents and the school and everybody that supported us, and the bus drivers. They would drive us down, we'd give them a room, they'd have pizza with us, and it would be good. And I'd also have to thank my husband for putting up with me for all these years, 40 some years. So I took a Chisholm basketball player and made him a Hibbing volleyball coach. So what we always started our games with in volleyball, and it was something that I had learned in Bemidji when I played volleyball. It was just a saying, and it meant nothing, but the kids liked it, and when we did JOs and everything, we did it. So I'm going to say some words, even if you don't know, you can read. You repeat it after me, and at the very end, go, okay? It goes, Hama, Hamahaya, Hamahaya Manahana, Hamahaya Manahana, Hamahaya. Thanks.
And welcome back the Hibbing High School Marching Band. for the marching band. Our next speaker is not only a great athlete, but he is maybe one of the best coaches in all of college hockey. That's Scott Sandlin. He was a 1982 grad here in Hibbing. Went on and played at the University of North Dakota, where he was a Hobey Baker finalist. Got drafted by the Montreal Canadiens, was a couple of years in their organization, and then traded to Philly. Back injury kind of ended his career, but he got into coaching. And it was 2000, March 31 of 2000, that he became the 12th coach of the UMD Bulldogs. What he has accomplished in his time there is absolutely phenomenal. He went to 3 straight NCAA Frozen Four finals. 2 of the 3 he wound up winning. And he had won a national title prior to that, back in 17. So the lives that he's touched, some former Hibbing players that played for him, the late Adam Johnson played at UMD, Scott Peronovich played at UMD, who actually wound up winning the Hobey Baker Award. Went to school with Jim and Susan, and never would have thought Jim would have produced a Hobey Baker hockey finalist. Holy buckets. Sure glad Susan had the talent on her side of the family. Without further ado, I want to introduce somebody that when I coach college women's hockey, I was fortunate enough every single year at the coaches convention to have a beer and talk hockey with Scott. Did that for 14, well actually for 17 years. And I have got great respect for what he does for kids and what he does for the game of hockey. Scott Sandlin.
Hello, everybody. Great to be back. Always a pleasure coming back. Thank you to the committee for inviting me to speak. Amber, you're a tough one to follow because you did a great job, and you're going to do a great job at Bemidji State. I think it's meant for you, so good luck to you. Be fun to watch it, and I'll get to see it. So, well, I don't know where to start because we're in the process of packing our house and moving, so I haven't really thought a whole lot about this, quite frankly. But like I said, it's always great to come back here. I grew up in Courthouse Addition. Right across the street is Brooklyn. And for everyone here, there's a little bit of a rivalry there. Brooklyn was our rink. But for me, I grew up, believe it or not, in a basketball family, Kevin. As you can see, I'm too short. My hands are too small. I didn't run or jump very well. So my dad and brother both played basketball, and so I was a little bit later starting hockey, but very, very fortunate to grow up in that neighborhood with all of the friends, not only my age, but older, that really kind of helped me. They were all playing hockey, so I kind of started a year later and just really fell in love with it, and lived at that Brooklyn rink, whether Russell Lehman was making face-off dots with their bloody noses or whatever was going on. Learned a lot of stuff at the Brooklyn Shack, I can tell you that. So things I could say here and things I can't say here, but it was never too cold, I can tell you that. If it was too cold and when they used to shut the rinks down, nope, those guys came down and cut the bolt off and we had the heater going, and I felt bad for the neighbors around there because we were playing till 11:30, midnight, but they were awesome, and that was just us growing up. And if we weren't doing that, if it was too much snow, we're playing boot hockey, whether it's on the street or at the rink. Everything was hockey, but we were fortunate, and I was fortunate to grow up with a lot of guys. We did everything, every sport, played everything, basketball, football, baseball, bombing cars, whatever we did everything together, hunting, fishing. So I was very, very fortunate to grow up in that neighborhood and have the friends that I did that are still a big part of my life, and we still have the Hibbing text chain going, so There's still a lot of courthouse Brooklyn banter on there, but it's just fun to reconnect with all the guys, and you know, again, just coming here, and you know, I was thinking 1982 state championship or state tournament. Grand Rapids had the rain on this section for so long, and it really sucked going down to watch the state tournament, staying at the Thunderbird Hotel and watching Grand Rapids. And we got close my junior year. Finally, we beat them. But I do want to tell one story about our coaches. I had, obviously, George Perpich, Bill Olson, and Bill Teacher. 3 totally different personalities, 3 great people. I'll get into that later, but one day, Billy Olson came in and Bill was a little hot, and he took the clipboard and just frisbeed it across the room and almost hit Pat McHale in the head or one of the hoopers, and all of a sudden it broke in 2. And if you've been in the locker room there, you got the locker room, then the coach's room, but there's mesh above there so you can hear everything. And I remember George coming in there, looks down at his clipboard, picks it up, keeps walking in. We don't know what's gonna happen, we're quiet. And all we hear is, "God damn it, Billy, you broke my brand new clipboard." And that was it. So we went out and won, so it was good. But we did get to the state tournament, took 3rd place, obviously lost to White Bear Mariner in the semis. Very disappointing because us and Edina were 1-2 in the state. We were set up to play, and next thing you know, we lost to White Bear, but we beat Bloomington Jefferson, got 3rd place, and it kind of broke that Grand Rapids streak. I know Hibbing went on and did well in the state tournament a little bit later, in the later years in the 80s, so that was good to see. And obviously from there, got an opportunity to go on and play college hockey in North Dakota for 4 years, and then on to pro hockey for 6. And unfortunately, my back was not great. I really didn't know what to do, and so my wife and I of 32 years, she's not here, but 32 years, we got married in 92, didn't have a job. I rented a house from Jerry Girardi over here, right across the street, I love the band, but goddamn it, they were playing every morning. Now, I just got married. I got married and my wife is like, "What the hell is that?" Just get used to it, honey. And we're fine, but so didn't really know what to do, and ended up getting wind of a league that started, 3 guys starting a league, and ended up moving to Fargo and coached there. And fortunately, I got a job at North Dakota as an assistant coach with Dean Blaze, my old coach. Won a couple championships with him, and was very fortunate to follow one of the better coaches and better friends, Mike Surdich. Not an easy thing to do. Mike was there for 18 years, and I got the job at Duluth, and we'll be starting my 25th year next year. Some of the things, just the friendships, the values I learned growing up here, I don't ever forget those. I love growing up in a smaller community. People value work. My parents taught me the same thing. It's the same thing I take into coaching. I've had some great coaches. Like I mentioned, 3 different personalities. And the game was different back then. But what I realized too, I get in arguments with my friends all the time that we didn't learn anything in high school. We're coaches. They said, yes, we did. Like if we swore on the rink, we got kicked off. Now, if I did that today, I wouldn't be on the ice very much because I'm doing a lot. But I still remember Pat McHale's dad coming down here, or coming down to the Memorial Building and yelling at the coaches because Pat swore and he got kicked off the ice and he couldn't practice. And it was just like that, just that discipline. I think that was a big part of it. Billy Olson was big on the positive mental attitude. And Bill Teacher was just a really good hockey coach and a person. He was kind of that guy you could talk to. But what I learned from that too, in putting together a coaching staff, is different personalities are really good. You need different personalities. And I'm using that for my coaching staff that I've put together. You want people that complement some of your weaknesses. And in today's world, I hired a 28-year-old coach 6 years ago. just because the millennials. It's crazy. I'm turning 60 in a month, and I'm like, I don't know how to handle with these guys, but it's been great to have young guys, and it's just things you learn, along with all the other coaches I had at college, learned it in pro, but nothing would be, I wouldn't be where I'm at without starting here, and just growing up in a small community that just had the right values, and you know, the neighborhood and just everything. I loved about growing up in this town. We had everything, you know, the lake was close, hunting, just everything you could imagine as a kid. And obviously the school, I still remember the old football field there. That cinder track hurt when you play football, but I still remember going to games and playing in those games. I mean, how fun was that? The place was packed, and you know, the memorial building, on Fridays and Saturdays and Thursdays, or even the section finals when that building had 5,000 people in it. Those are things you don't forget, and you walk into that building today when I'm recruiting or scouting, you know, you see the banners, you see how nice that rink is kept up. So everybody should be very, very, very proud, and I know I'm very proud to call myself a Ranger from Hibbing, and certainly want everyone to enjoy the week. Kudos to everyone that put this together, because I know there's a lot of work that goes into this. And just thank you again for letting me come back and see some familiar faces and speak to you, and hopefully you got a little bit something out of it. But just one story about Kevin. Where are you, Kevin? So obviously I played pro hockey, he played pro basketball. So every September, before I'm going to training camp, I don't know if he remembers this, he'd go, Scott, you're playing the wrong sport. I go, why? Because you miss duck hunting all the time. So, anyway, good to see him, good to see everybody. Thank you again.
With all the great athletes, all the great teams that have been talked about, there are some sports that consider maybe a little bit more on the individual side that have a team element that have had phenomenal success over the last 100 years. Probably the most notably being the swimming program. In 100 years, Hibbing High School has had 3 swim coaches. That's it. Pop Lukens coached for 38 years. In 1954, he had a young man that won a backstroke, a 100-yard backstroke, that his name was Carl Allison. Carl Allison became the second coach, and he had a young man that he coached that was also a phenomenal swimmer, and Mike Venziano. And Mike Venziano is the current swimming coach. It's pretty phenomenal. For a brief period of time, the State High School League recognized curling. Very first state champions came from Hibbing. Track and field have had a number of athletes that have gone on and had great success. And our next speaker is what a young guy. He's a 1999 grad. Not only captain of the cross-country team, but also captain of the track and field team. He dabbled a little bit in basketball also. He was an assistant boys track coach for 2 years, assistant girls track coach for 4, and for the last 17 years, he's been the head boys track and field coach. And without further ado, James, please.
Welcome. Good evening, everyone. As he said, I'm James Please Jr., class of 1999, making me the youngest speaker invited tonight by 1 year. Sorry, Amber. Clearly not up here for my athletic prowess or accomplishments in high school, which I'm okay with. When I was asked to be here initially, I thought, what a cool honor. And then I read the names I'm accompanying, and I thought, wow, they must have been not expecting all the yeses to come rolling in. But I am very happy to be here. I feel my role here is twofold. I do have the honor of announcing our latest induction class for this fall for our Hall of Fame, but I'm also here to represent the cross-country and track programs and just share a little bit about my journey, I guess, quickly, because I know any of you that have been through a banquet of mine, you probably are timing me and hoping it's less than an hour now. So, and I promise, we'll get to the main event. My own kids want to see Mr. McHale more than me, so I understand. They hear me enough, especially at home in the summer. So, just a little bit about my journey, because I'm one of those guys, maybe the weird ones that, didn't want to leave Hibbing too much. So, here I am, class of '99. An okay athletic career, two-sport captain, which I say tongue-in-cheek. It was a nice career I put together. Never made it to the state. I don't have any of those fun stories. My career ended with not one, not two, but all three of our handoffs being poor in our 4x2 at the time. So that was my end of my career. That brings me to be able to give a unique perspective to my athletes in that you can't get much worse of an ending to your high school career than having all three of your good friends on your relay with you and then screwing up all of the handoffs, and that's a wrap. So that gives me a lot of nice perspective there to be able to not only succeed together, but talk about failure and how we can build, and that's a product of what I had here from my coaches that I had. I was able to run at Bemidji State for 2 years after I went to HCC, but again, and I don't mean to discredit it, but you'll see I deflect a lot, and Bemidji State was looking for a older guy that just finished 2 years at HCC with very limited running in that time. But I was there, and I lettered for 2 years, and I had a great coach that helped mold and strengthen what I had already learned here in Hibbing High School. That led me to my coaching career. I guess I coached a little bit at HCC. My former high school coaches, Pat Castagneri, Joel McDonald, Carl Sadness, they brought me in right out of high school, paid me to be the junior high boys coach. I left for 3 years, and as he said, they brought me back on staff as soon as I was around, and they were desperate, I was desperate. So, and then I didn't know he was gonna be here today, but shortly after that, I was a young, I want to say 26-year-old, not quite sure, just like I'm not sure I belong up here right now. Sure, I was ready to be the head boys track coach, but Tim Scott extended that offer to me. I'm not even sure I had a full formal interview process, but back in 2008, they were desperate, and I was still Pat Castagneri's assistant, even though I was the boys head coach. Those of you that know Pat probably can verify that for everyone. Shortly after that, 2012, the boys and girls cross country job opened up, and much like Vanziano with swimming, cross country, track, they go together so well, it made sense. So for the past, it's been 17 years as the boys track coach, now going on 13 years as the boys and girls cross country coach, I've been able to give back, and that's truly been my calling. I bounced around teaching job to teaching job up here, Cotton, Nashwauk, Chisholm, Wasabi Academy, and Buell. It took me a while to stick, and I couldn't have done my coaching without the support of, as I said, Tim Scott, Megan Potter, now Keith Turner, and also at home, my loving wife, who's in the crowd, I think still Jane, please, and now we started this journey, kidless, 3 kids of our own. I have the pleasure of coaching my own children, I think it's a pleasure. We'll see how this goes with 2 of them now, with a 7th and 9th grader coming up. But without that, without her support, without us being a young couple without kids and me wasting or burning all my sick time so I could be at the track meets, because springs are so nice up here, so we're using all my sick days when I'm at different districts to go coach Hibbing track and all those things. But without that basis of work ethic I learned here, I wouldn't have been able to do those things and give back. I've been able to be a part of so many different things here at Hibbing High School that I've been so excited to be a part of. Not just from the coaching perspective, but of course that's what brings me back to work. Teaching 7th grade health, believe it or not, isn't what I wake up with a passion to do every day. But getting to my after-school activities with the cross-country kids, the girls, if you guys haven't been following, we've been able to build a little culture here where most of my seniors come back at their banquet and say, I don't know how you did it, please, but you made running fun. And I don't know how I did it either, because I wasn't that guy either. Now I kind of am, but girls are 3 straight section champs, 3 state appearances down at the state meet. Being a part of the track and field program where we get all sorts of cast of characters. That's usually my favorite group to get. You know, I got the athletes, I got the kids that probably never thought about a sport before, I get seniors, I get freshmen, it doesn't matter, we find a place, we try to make them succeed, and as much fun as it is watching, say, a Julia Girardi go back-to-back state champion in the pole vault, it's also just as fun to watch that 7th grader just clear opening height for the first time ever, because they're accomplishing something that I think us coaches have a lot to do with, or at least a little bit, and we just empower those kids, and it's been so fun to be a part of that. Like I said, we learn, we fail, we succeed, we do it all together as Blue Jackets. I can look back at me, my best friends, some of my most treasured memories are all tied back to my time spent here in high school. I know when this program came out, I got quite the interesting text thread from my group of guys, class of 99, like, oh, please, you're leading for McHale, huh? Wow, what are you paying here? And I said, again, I'll go back to they were desperate. I did have to correct my family who thought I was going into the Hall of Fame. No, I'm here to announce that, which is okay, because as one of those things as I'm here to do, from my journey from youth sports, from my high school career, my college career, now coaching, I've been able to take part in all these different things. We are a part of, Tim Scott started a golf scramble that raises money for underprivileged kids to pay their activity fees or pay for equipment. It's been so rewarding being a part of that. Being invited to the Hall of Fame committee. I'm actually not high school related, but on the committee bringing back the First Avenue Mile. So if you're sticking around Saturday at 9 a.m., I expect to see a lot of you guys down there to lacing up the shoes one more time as we bring back that community event, because that's what this is about, our community, our Hibbing High School, and everything we've done together to build this. So, I think I've talked enough about myself and my programs, and I'd love to share, Newsage stories, but I was a back of the bus guy, and Mr. Law, if you're still in there, I apologize for me and McLeod back in the day. I do get some athletes like that, and I said that's still my penance for what I used to be. So, but I think what a lot of you guys were here to hear from me is the Hall of Fame class that we took some time getting to this. 2018 was our last class, and then unfortunately COVID hit, and then a transition to a new AD, and it's just one of those things we've been dragging our feet trying to get going again. And what better time than the 100th celebration of this high school than to bring back our Hall of Fame, Athletic Hall of Fame class. So I'll make those announcements and I'll get to the main event here coming up. So Hall of Fame inductees for this fall by class, and this ceremony will be September 28th, probably here on the stage, and then we'll go somewhere for a banquet afterwards. Patrick Furlong, class of 1961. Pat Furlong, those of you that don't know, I'll just be brief here, and this is where I get lengthy at my banquets, as I talk too much about everyone. Pat Furlong played football, baseball, and hockey here as a Hibbing High School athlete. Then he went on to play at the University of Minnesota in hockey, and then he really spent the majority of his life coaching after that. He's got 25 years as a boys coach at Mount, then 10 years as a girls coach, amounting to over 1,000 high school hockey games coached. So Patrick Furlong, class of 61, will be going in. Dennis Ches, class of 1964. Dennis Ches unfortunately passed away in 2020, so we're a bit late with this induction, but he was a section tennis champ as senior and the state runner-up in 64, U of M tennis scholarship, and a member of the high school basketball team back in 62 through 64. Denny, according to Mr. Verant, might be our top finishing boy tennis player ever with that state runner-up appearance. Robin Clefman, class of 65. Robin was a swim and track team member and state qualifier in many events. Since high school, he's been a staple on the master swimming circuit, still competing today and setting a national record this past spring in his events. Frank Russ, class of 68. Frank was a longtime standout in sports for us, basketball star, and a longtime coach at Hermantown. Babe Glumac, class of 68. Babe's going... Babe was an athlete here at Hibbing High School, but obviously many of us know Babe as the official that everyone knows on the range for his theatrics and his dedication to our youth and their sports. He's been official for many sports and many years, and he's a member of many officiating Hall of Fames, and now he'll get his due from his hometown school. Gary Southgate, class of '68. Gary Southgate was a basketball and baseball star, obviously tied to Babe Blumack, because I remember growing up and I'd see the guy that looked like Bill Clinton and the guy that acted really strange all the time, reffing together at all times. But that short changes Gary, because Gary was a stud athlete in his right, with offers to go minor league baseball and a standout for our Blue Jacket programs. The next inductee, Mike Tinter, class of 1970. Mike Tinter was a football, basketball, and track star for the Hibbing High School, state runner-up in the shot put back in 1970, and then he went with his brother Rick to a pro baseball tryout, and he was offered a pro baseball contract just by showing some skills, even though he never played on our official high school team. The next trio is tied together: Joe Roberts, class of 70, Gary Clefman, class of 71, and Jerry Scott, class of 71. Anyone that lives in Hibbing and follows any of the curling events knows that those three have been longtime standouts in the curling circuit, and back as our MC had pointed out, when it was a high school sport, these guys were all on our state championship teams during that time. They've also been national champs and world champs at their different age levels in the sport of curling. John Redica, class of 76, state basketball player, state golfer in 74 and 76, played at UMD golf and basketball on a full golf scholarship. So another standout athlete, John Redica, will be joining this class. I'm not sure if he's still here. I think he got this heads up, but the guy that just preceded me, Scott Sandlin, class of 1982. As he said, football, hockey, and golfer here at the high school, played hockey at UND, Hobie Baker finalist. He was drafted and played in the NHL, I believe, for 6 seasons, he said, and then the current UMD hockey coach with multiple, I have 3-time national champs. I'm not sure if that's correct. Congratulations, Scott Sandlin, on his induction. 3 more to go, then we're almost there. Peter Zambrano, class of 1989. Cross-country and track guy, state champion in cross-country, runner-up in the 3200, I believe, his senior year. Standout runner for many years before that, Peter Zambrano was going in. And last but certainly not least, our 2 newest or youngest inductees, also to be our female inductees. Andrea Nichols, now Seeley, class of 2003. Andrea was a standout hockey player for our program, earning the title of Miss Minnesota in 2003, and she went on to play at the University of Minnesota in college. And last but certainly not least, Laura Heck, class of 2006. Laura Heck was a standout golfer with multiple state tournaments throughout her 6-year career, starting in 7th grade on our golf team. She also golfed at the College of St. Thomas and is the first female golfer to be inducted into their College Hall of Fame. That is our class for the 2024. Thank you all for putting up with me. Thank you for the invitation on this special evening. And in closing, let's go Blue Jackets.
Okay, before I introduce our last speaker, I have to divert and tell you a little story here. So I got here today, somebody had approached me and they said, so are you familiar with the stage? And when I was back in high school, never got to wear jeans to school. My mom passed in 2011, just want to show you. I got the jeans on today. One day I was sitting in class, it was J.J. Moran's social studies class, and a knock on the door, and the principal, Bill Law, peeks his head in the door, and asked to talk to me. Have you ever had that situation where you didn't do anything wrong, but because you're asked, you all of a sudden think maybe you did something wrong? I was so scared to go out that hallway. And he asked me if I would MC an upcoming, it was probably a homecoming event, and I was a sophomore, a little scared to do it, but I said I would. And then he asked me to be the editor of the school paper. And then he said, I understand you do an impression. I said, oh man. And that all started back when I was in 6th grade, when the principal at Assumption, friends with Judy Stalenovich over in Virginia, and Judy tells Sister Dolores that I do this impression. So that followed me then into high school, and it's kind of what's led me to be here today. But our next guest really don't need a whole lot of introduction. Won 3 NBA titles with the Boston Celtics. Well, going back to his Hibbing playing days, led Hibbing to the state tournament in 75 and 76. Wore number 40 in white, 41 in blue. Lost a tough game to Steve Lingenfelter and the Bloomington Jefferson Jaguars in 1976. Went on and had a fantastic career at the University of Minnesota, where he was a Golden Gopher, and then got drafted right away by the Boston Celtics, where he played his entire career. It just doesn't happen very often anymore. But Kevin played his whole career there. 6th Man of the Year 1 year, 3 NBA titles, NBA Hall of Fame, Croatia Hall of Fame, Hibbing Hall of Fame. He's in all kinds of Hall of Fames. And when I think about Kevin growing up, I can remember, I mean, he grew so much in such a fast period of time. And I remember one time I got a ride from the Bonacatos, Gary Jambetty and I and his brother, we piled into Mike Bonacato's car and he'd give us a ride. And there down 7th Avenue would be Kevin McHale walking, and Dave Bonacato rolls down the window and he says, Kevin, spit out your gum, you're gonna be late for class. And the legs were going every which direction. I never had that problem. Kevin is not only the success on the court, but then he had success off the court. TNT as a broadcaster, started with the Timberwolves as a broadcaster, became general manager, president, coach, went on and coached the Houston Rockets. He left an imprint on the sport of basketball, just as he's left an imprint on this community. And as great as this school is, and as great as the athletes that grace the halls are here, and as great as the coaches and administrators are, it takes a community. It takes those in the community for things to really, really be great. And I drove a long way to get here, so I had to go out east and pick up my friend, because he's going to introduce Kevin. I've given the background, and I got to go get my friend. I'll be right back. Thank you, and hello again, everyone. This is Howard Cosell. I come to you from the Hibbing Auditorium, where it was back in 1976 I graced this very stage to send out the Hibbing Blue Jackets to the state tournament, and I interviewed Kevin McHale. I know most of you think I'm famous for creating the Louisville Lip Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali. But I'd like to ask Kevin, how many NBA Hall of Famers has Howard Cosell interviewed in high school? only him. With that, Kevin McHale.
I'm wearing a coat because my wife made me. She's sitting down there. So, you know, it's great to be here. I'm like what Carrie said. You know, I haven't been in the auditorium in so long. I looked around. It's amazing. I mean, I don't think as a 7th and 8th grade kid, you come here and you look around. I think everybody has this type of auditorium, but it is beautiful. And it's great to be here tonight. And thanks everybody for inviting me. And I saw Howard Goetz, one of my favorite teachers. He was here. So Howard, I know you're out there somewhere. I can see you, but it was great to see him. And, what a good man. And the best thing about Howard too is he had like size 13 feet when I used to have 13 feet. And I used to be able to take his hip boots and I would use them. Then I'd go out fishing and do some stuff, and I'd always say, Mr. Coates, I need your hip boots. No problem, Kevin. So, Howard, it's great seeing you. You know, I was born here. I'm born in Greenhaven. My mom's from Latonia. My dad's from Penobscot, North Hibbing, original North Hibbing. And, you know, grew up in Greenhaven, and there was kids running around, and like Scotty was saying, Sandlin, I mean, you know, we were doing stuff and playing sports all the time. We were out in the woods all the time. We were trapping things we shouldn't have been trapping. One time we got a skunk and we sprayed everything, and good Lord. Came home, my dad made me burn my clothes. And you know, I still hang out with the Nearing boys, Jeff Nearing and all the guys we talked about. We were 12 and 13-year-old kids walking through town with 22. It's like there's 5 of us. And this got them over our shoulder, like walking through with guns through town. And people would say, where are you going? Oh, Ansley Road. Where do they go? Have fun. And I'm like, now if you saw a pack of kids running around with guns, you call the cops. And how great was Bill Grillo, by the way? I mean, Bill. That was fantastic, and he was a great guy. You know, when we were kids, you tried not to see Bill Grillo, because if you saw Bill Grillo, you were in trouble. If you got in trouble, you'd make you go box. Nobody wanted to do that. And you know, so I grew up playing all sports. I loved the competition, and I loved playing. My first coach was Nick Novak, and down the Greenhaven rink, and we played hockey, and you know, cold as hell all the time. I remember that all the time. The warming shack was a good thing to have there. We'd go in there, and it really was in 7th grade. I played sports, and Jay Northey, a friend of mine, I graduated with Jay, and he said, you need to come out and you need to play basketball. And I thought, I don't know, you know, I like hockey, and I like that, but I said, yeah, I played summertime, I played basketball with the guys. So I decided to come out in 7th grade for 7th and 8th grade basketball. And I fell in love with the game, but the reason I fell in love with the game originally was, and he's here, I saw him earlier, Terry Mucci was our coach. And Terry, I went to high school, and Terry Mucci was a teacher over at the Lincoln. And it was the first time I'd ever met him. Well, Terry comes out there, jet black hair, big mustache, he's about 6'2", 6'3", and big long arms and stuff, and you know, I'm like, ooh, this guy, he's like, you know, I think he's old, but he's only 26, 27. And, you know, I'm 12, 13, 14, and, you know, I see him there, and he's our coach, and so we start practicing, and there was a field hockey net on the side. So all of a sudden, Terry goes, hold on, and he takes the field hockey goalie stick, and he says, all right, everybody shoot at me, and if you score, I'll buy you a Dairy Queen. We're like, oh, okay. So, you know, we're firing at Terry, and some people would score and stuff. Well, it's November, the Dairy Queen is closed. And then Terry, so, you know, Terry, all right, let's get back to playing basketball. So, okay, Mr. Mucci, I said, hey, Mr. Mucci, how often do you go to the Dairy Queen? He goes, never. And I said, okay. I love this sense of humor. I like this guy. You know, he was sarcastic. He'd mess with you. He'd shoot shots and say, "Come here, you can't block this." Well, of course I can't block. I was this big, and he would. I had so much fun, and that whole year changed my life. I fell in love with basketball. We would go on road trips, and Terry would drive the van, and Mr. Muchie just became like, I think the world of the guy, I really do. And he just was a wonderful guy, and what a way to learn how to play the game of basketball. And he really just became a good friend of mine, and is still a good friend to this day. And that day in 7th grade, in the little Greenhaven school, changed my life. I fell in love with the game. Played all summer. My dad went out and he just made a little fan backboard, put it on my garage, and I would shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot. I took out all the lights I could get, these trouble lights, and put them around so I could see at night. The neighbors would be flicking their lights on and off, and they got so tired of hearing the basketball bounce. And Kitsy Sismo, my next door neighbor, window was right by the basketball court. He'd say, "That's enough, Kev." I'd say, "Okay." When Kitsy gave me that was enough, I had to go in. But I would play ball, and I started going down to the Lincoln gym, and I would go over to the junior college, and I just played all the time, and I just fell in love with the game. And in 8th grade, I went out for they said you're going to come on and you're going to play on the C squad, and so they had like a tryout, and that was where I was introduced to Tom Enzelk, and Tom Enzelk was the coach here, and Tom again, he was probably 28, and I thought he was ancient, and and if you know Tom Enzelk, he was a teacher here, and Tom's a piece of work, another very good friend of mine to this day. But he would, we were trying to run a three-man weave, and none of us could get it. It was just pass and go behind. And he especially got mad at Dave Bonicato, and he would always be yelling, "Bonicato, it's pass and go behind. How can that be so hard?" And none of us could get it. And we're trying to run this drill, so he would get mad at us that we're at the high school gym here. And remember they had that track on the outside of the gym? He'd yell and he said, every time you messed up, you had to run 5 laps. Well, everybody was running laps. There was nobody on the court by the time, and he was mad. And I was thinking, well, this guy's a piece of work. I had never met him before, and he was ended up being a guy that we would play one-on-one with. I would go to the gym early, and he'd come down, and people think I was 6'10" when I was 13. Well, I wasn't. I was 5'8", and I grew really late. And I would play basketball against him, one-on-one, 2-on-2 when people came. In the summer, he opened up the Lincoln gym, and I would go down there with him. And once that gym was open, I was in there, and he like I said, he coached me up in 8th grade and 9th grade, and he taught me a lot of basketball. But one thing that Tom had a lot of intensity. I remember we were playing Buell, okay? Now, we're playing Buell. I'm like, it's a small town outside Chisholm. I'm like, okay. And he gets in the locker room, and he was walking up and down the thing, but this thing come out of here. Maybe not. Oh yeah, it comes out of here. Anyway, so Big A would be walking, and he was in front of us, and we're all little kids, we're on chairs, and he's going, "Tonight, we play Buell." And he goes, "You know what happens if you lose the Buell? You remember the rest of your life." I'm thinking, holy cow. I mean, we're playing Buell? I'm like, holy. I was always afraid of the Buell Bulldogs after that. I was like, and so, he would give these speeches, and we'd play these games, and it was hilarious because he was so intense, but so much fun to be around. And like I say, he just became really a great friend of mine. And so I really haven't started growing yet. I have no idea. But I do have something inside me that keeps pushing me to basketball. And I'm going out, and I'm going to the gym. I'm going steady. As a matter of fact, the high school here, I found out how to turn on the lights. And so I could only turn on a couple of them because you didn't want to turn on all the lights. So I turned on the few that I could shoot with, and I'd be down there shooting. And Bronco, he ran the gym here forever, and I mean, guys my age. I think his last name was Davidovich. Was it Bronco Davidovich? Yeah, Bronco would come down and go, "Doggone it, McHale, you can't have the lights on." And he was a depressed, like my father, from the Depression, and they're like, I was wasting electricity. One guy shooting, can't have lights on. And I'd be like just begging him, and Herm Frickin would come down, and Herm would say, the football coach, athletic director, and another really good guy, and Herm would say, "Leave the kid alone, he's trying to become a basketball player." And then I would say, that was great, and then Pecky Sandlin would come down, and eventually Pecky would start rebounding for me, and he'd pass it out to me, and years later, Lynn and Lenny, why weren't you with the pom-pom things? I mean, she does the Hibbing fight song, and every once in a while she starts telling me she remembers it. I'm like, okay. And she does the Hibbing fight song. I'm surprised she wasn't out there. But we were in Bimbo's, and we were with Pecky Sandlin, and this was before Pecky had died, of course, a few years ago. He was a war hero. The movie Fury was about him, and you would never know that. He would rebound for me, and I'm thinking after that, I was like, how cool is that? That there's a guy rebounding for me and pulling for me, and and he lived a life that was unbelievable. When Brad Pitt played him, and I was teasing him, I said, "Pecky, there's no way Brad Pitt should have played you. You're way too homely." And he was like, no. Me and Brad, we look the same. I said, "No, you don't." I got news for you. But so, Mr. Frickin, I went down to the University of Minnesota, and I was playing down there, and Herm Frickin played football there. And I came back with my letter jacket, and it was like probably my sophomore year in college. And I went to a Friday night football game at Old Cheever Field, and saw Mr. Frickin there, and Herm came up to me and looked at me, and he said, that old from Wyoming. He said, "Hell, McHale, you wearing that jacket just makes me feel so good." And he gave me a big hug. And I went, you got to remember, Frick was a mean guy, And he gave me a big hug, and I went, this is a special place for me to come back to. Because like I say, those guys they all supported me so much, and I'm growing now. I'm getting a little bit bigger, and I play on the varsity as a sophomore, and now it's played my entire sophomore year on the varsity, and John Redica, who's a much better player than I am at that time. John's on the varsity. We have 2 sophomores on the varsity, and they decided to bring in a new coach, and they brought in Gary Addington, and Gary, besides my father, probably had as big a imprint in my life as any man. He was a young guy. He was like 24, 25. He had the big mutton chops. We couldn't grow mutton chops because we had no hair that would grow very much. And he had the big mutton chop sideburns, and he had long hair. And I'm like, ooh, we got a cool coach. And he had a cute little wife, Carol, and I was like, man, this guy's great. And, and we played in the summer, and he was just a great guy to be around. Very, very disciplined, very dedicated. And I never heard the guy swear. Never really raised his voice. And so practice is starting. I'm really excited. I'm a junior now. I'm probably about 6'5", 6'6". I'm growing because I keep on telling my mom that she's drying my jeans way too much because my jeans are now becoming high waters, and all my buddies are giving me a ration of crap about, I should get longer pants. I said, hey, try it, man. And they just kept going up, and my mom, she wouldn't even dry them after a while. She would just hang them downstairs because I was like, Mom, they're done. Little did I know I was just growing like a weed. So I'm about probably 6'5" at this time, going into my start of my junior year. And we played with Gary in the summer and got to know him. And so the first practice we have, he used to run stations, and I'm not going to bore you with a bunch of basketball stuff, but station work was 20 minutes before to start practice off, and you did entering the ball to the wing and all this very, very basic stuff, feeding the post and all this stuff. And we had never done that with Milan Knezevich. So we go through the 20 minutes, and Gary just sits there, and then we get down to 20 minutes of all the drill work stuff, and he said, that's not nearly good enough, so what we're going to do is we're going to run suicides. And then that's free throw line back, center line back, three-quarter, those are not fun to run. And then after we run 2 or 3 of those, I think you guys will try a little harder, we're going to try it again. And so we run our suicides, he puts 20 minutes back on it, and we started to practice over. He never raised his voice, I was never so afraid of a guy. I was looking at him going like, ooh, like, I'm not going to mess with this guy. And he had a curfew too, that was the other thing, he had a curfew for us. We never had curfews with the other, we came and went as you want. And I never had a curfew when I was a kid. My dad, I was 16, and I said, Dad, when should I go home? My mom's yelling, 8 o'clock. And I finally got my license, and she's saying, Paul, you can't let him drive, and my mom was a piece of work. And so my dad looks at me, and he says, son, if you're old enough to drive a car, you sure as hell should know when it's time to come home. But I went, no curfew. But having no curfew doesn't any good, because when all your friends go home, you go home. So whatever curfew they had, I had. I'd be in my car, and I'd be driving by myself going, I'm going home. And so Gary was very, very disciplined in everything he did. He told us we're going to have a curfew. And the curfew was like 10 o'clock the night before a game. So I'd be out with my buddies, and I'm not going in. Gary's not going to call my house. Coach Addington's not going to call my house. I don't have to worry about that. Well, 9:45, I'd go, drive me home. And they would go, I go, just drive me home. I can't. I was scared to death the guy would call. He never called my house in 2 years, and I never broke curfew with that guy. And Gary just really helped me with basketball. All of the little drill work we did. I'll fast forward a couple of years. I'm a freshman down at the University of Minnesota. I'm playing down there. Michael Thompson is my teammate. Practice just starts. And so the drill was you got to feed the post. Michael was a good low post player. And so I square up on the wing just like Coach Addington had taught me. I run up to the free throw line, push my guy off, come out, get the ball, face up, reverse pivot, face up, get the guy off me. My defender's on me, get him off me, look at the post. He's three-quartering high. I dribble to the baseline, drop it into Michael. And Coach Dutcher, after I did that, he said to the team, he said, come here, Kevin. He said, yeah. Where'd you learn how to do that? And I'm thinking, finally I went, I did it every day. Like that was one of our drills that we did with Gary Addington, and that impressed Coach Dutcher enough. I ended up starting as a freshman, and because I could do all these simple, basic things that Gary had pounded into us every single day. And it was just, being with these guys that really introduced me to the game. It helped me so much. Terry Mucci said to me when I first started playing for him, he said, Kevin, I had never played organized basketball before. I just played in the park, just pick up a ball. And I would rebound the ball, and I would throw long outlets. And long outlet when you're that age is probably, from me to you, that was a long outlet. And but he threw it ahead, and Terry came up to me and said, boy, I love the way you rebound. I love the way you throw the ball ahead. And that stuck with me always. And I always had my head up when I rebounded, always threw long passes in high school, threw long passes in college, and threw long passes in the NBA. And a lot of that came from just Terry and the little things they said to you that help you along the way. Like I said, being with Coach Addington, I had an unbelievable base of fundamentals. And he really taught you how to play the game, all the little aspects of the game. And I'll tell you a story. So we're going to play in Duluth East. And they have a guy named Rockney Johnson. And Rockney Johnson, John Redica, that was my teammate, probably Poli McDonald from Chisholm, Pat Foshee from Virginia. Those guys were the best players in the area. And I'm in school, and we're playing Duluth East that night. And Big A, my C squad coach, he says to me, play with them all the time in the summer, and he says to me, come here. I said, I'm late for class. He goes, I'll give you a pink slip. Don't worry, just come here. So I go in this class, and again, you gotta know Big A. He's sweating by the time he's done talking, And I sit down, and he says, we got Duluth East tonight. And I said, okay. And he's pacing. and he makes you nervous just by doing that. And he's like, and you know what? You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna kick their tails. And he goes, and they stand up, and he'd walk a little more, and he'd say, you know why? No, he said, because you're gonna play great. He goes, you got butterflies? I said, yeah, I got butterflies. He goes, that's good, because you wanna have butterflies. That means you're ready. And he said, I play against you all the time. We play one-on-one, play two-on-two. And the game gets tight, he goes, and you get mean. He goes, I can't score on you. You get down low, you're moving your feet. He said, Rockney's gonna get that all night tonight. And he said, and we're gonna win. So we go down there, and I'm half thinking what he said, half thinking he's crazy. And we go down there and we play. And during the game, I get hit right in the privates. And so I come over to the bench, and Big A says, sit on the ground. So I sit on the ground. He picks me up and he drops me. And I went like, I'm already not feeling great. And he said, Coach Adams, he goes, what are you doing? He goes, I read somewhere where that helps. I said, that doesn't help. I'm just here to tell you, don't do that anymore. But we ended up beating Duluth East, which was undefeated at that time, and we beat them, and I did play well. And we were walking off the court, and Big A comes over to me, and he puts his arm around me, and he says, what'd I tell you? What'd I tell you? And I said, okay. And I'll fast forward 20 years, and I use that all the time. I was playing in my last game, pretty much beat up 35-year-old NBA player. We were playing Charlotte Hornets in the playoffs, and I had butterflies. And I thought, I'm gonna play good. I'm gonna play good tonight. And I used that every big game I had. I used that from that one crazy afternoon with Big A. And I used that all the time. And I did play good. And when I got the butterflies, I knew that I was ready to play. And how about that? Just I used that. I used that a million different times throughout my career. And when I was a kid, I'd be in my driveway and I'd be playing. And in my mind, I'm playing against Lou Alcindor, who ended up being Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And then I would play against Bill Walton, who was at UCLA, great player. And so those are the guys I'm playing against. And I'm also playing against Willis Reed, who was the center for the New York Knicks. And I'm playing against all these guys in my head, and I'm working out. And funny how things work out. I played against Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Lou Alcindor in some of the biggest games that I played in. And Bill Walton became a teammate of mine, and what a dear, dear friend. And we lost Bill, but he was just, I love that guy. He was just a great guy. And so isn't that funny? I'm sitting in my driveway and playing against these guys, and it actually all came true. And and that was in between Kitsy Sismo telling me to go to sleep. So things are just, I had an amazing run. And speaking of Bill Walton, one of the most embarrassing things was, so Linny's were there. Lynn goes, oh, Bill, Kevin had you on his wall, like, I've had a picture of you on his wall, like, he really idolized you. And I'm like, oh, God, I'm like, I gotta play with this guy. And I'm like, I go, Linny, no, don't share those things, But I did have a picture of him on my wall, and I did idolize him, and I was like, oh, well. But, like I say, that I think back on that. I drive by that little house in Greenham once in a while, and I look at that driveway, and I think of the dreams I had. And the crazy thing is I realized those dreams. And I realized those dreams with the help of all those people that I mentioned, those people that from Hibbing, Minnesota, my friends who pushed me and played with me, and we'd go down there and we'd play together on the park, we'd play together at the Lincoln, we'd play together at the JC, we'd play together at the high school gym, and the coaches that I had here. So for me, this is a special place. I was blessed with an unbelievable upbringing with my mom and dad, and my older brother John. I hung out with him and his older friends, and as a matter of fact, the class of '74 is having their 50th anniversary, and I know most of the guys in the class of '74 because my brother John was there, and I hung out with those guys, and always played with older guys when I was growing up, and so I can't believe it's been 50 years here for those guys, and our 50 years coming in a couple of years. But I just want to say that Hibbing, the sports here were amazing. I mean, you go to the memorial building, and I thought everybody had a memorial building. I thought everybody had indoor rink. And so it's 70, probably 70, maybe 69 or 70. And my aunt Sadie Fearing, my dad's sister, says, "Do you want to go watch Denny Fearing?" And Denny was a really good hockey player, played at UMD. And so I said, yeah, I'd like to go see him. So she goes, "Dress warm." And I'm thinking, not that cold in a memorial building. We're going to Greenway, So we drive over there, and we get to the arena and kind of pull up, and I'm looking, and I'm thinking, Christ, this looks like the Greenhaven rink. And they had the two big doors wide open on either side, so it was cold enough. They had no ice machine. They didn't make ice. They had outdoor ice. They just had the doors open. And so one thing about it, so I went there and I was thinking, man, this is really a ratty place, But Mike Antonovich and those guys had played there, and I still think it's on my Greenway, and we're watching the game, and they Blue Jackets are putting a lot of pressure on Greenway, and the guy Greenway goes to clear the puck, and ran over the puck, and we're sitting there right in the head. So I get drilled right in the head. And I'm like, oh, wow, So my aunt Sadie's like, "Kevin, you okay?" And I'm like, yeah, I think so. I'm okay. I'm all right, don't worry about it. And so between periods, they bring me to see Dr. Ben Owens. And Dr. Ben is a classic. I really laugh because that guy was a classic. So I get there, and he looks at me and he goes, "How many fingers do I have up?" And he goes, I go, "1. He goes, 2. He goes, yes, I think you're okay. He looks at my aunt Sadie and he goes, "He'll be fine." He goes, "He has a hard head, that will help him someday." And I just started laughing. And just the characters that we had in this place were amazing. And, again, he's another guy that, I became friends with as I got older. But this is just a special place with the memorial building. The fact that we go down there, there'd be 5,000-6,000 people in that building. You'd go over the student section and watch games, and it was just unreal. Go down to Bennett Park. I saw Gary Southgate was in here, great baseball player. When we were kids, we'd go down there, and then we'd go back home, and then we'd all go like, "I'm gonna be Gary Southgate." We'd say, "Okay," And so when you were Gary Southgate, you had to rack that ball, and Gary was there, and we'd Jimmy Anderson, Sharkey, my good friend, was a left-handed pitcher. You go down there and watch these guys play baseball at Bennett Park. And Bennett Park, to this day, has those big, beautiful stands behind it. And it felt like, it just felt like you were someplace that was bigger than Bennett Park in Hibbing, Minnesota, with the stands and stuff. And so the programs here in sports were just amazing. The people that came to help you, like Terry Mucci, taking time out just to help a bunch of kids. Tom Enzel, taking a bunch of time out to help a bunch of kids. Gary Addington, just a great, wonderful person, wonderful coach. Those guys had so much influence over my life and helped me realize my dreams. And, it was really just a wonderful, wonderful experience that I had here. So there's always a special place for me. And in closing, I'll tell you another story. So I'm in the NBA now, and I'm early in my career, and I'm in Madison Square Garden, and excuse me, and we're getting ready to go out there, and I hear someone yell, "McHale!" Well, we're waiting in the tunnel to go out, and I haven't been in New York long, but not many times, but I knew enough that when you look, they gave you the finger or something, so I'm not looking. I'm like, yeah, you're not gonna get me with that one. So I'm just looking straight ahead, and he's yelling, "Hey, Kevin McHale, hey, Kevin." I'm like, yeah, nope. And all of a sudden he yells, "Hibbing," and I went, "Ooh." It was Bob Dylan, and I went like, "Oh, wow," Bob Dylan. And went out there, and I was like, just giddy. I was like, man, Bob Dylan said hi to me. And, so this place is special, and I'll leave you with this. So if you ever see anybody and you want to get their attention, don't call their name, just yell Hibbing. And I tell you what, they'll turn around and look at you. Thank you so much. I know Jambetty kid is here somewhere.
Kevin, did you leave my school? Thanks, Kevin. I want to thank everybody that's been involved here tonight, from the Hibbing High School Marching Band, the alumni cheerleaders, the special tribute to Gary Jambetty, a friend of mine, for all the work he's done. Started with the Hibbing Tribune. To all of our speakers, Amber Frickin, Bill Grillo Sr., Gail Nich, Scotty Sandlin, James Police, and Kevin McHale. I also want to thank you for coming out tonight, taking time out of your Sunday evening to come to this program. I want to let you know that there will be a short reception in the athletic area, so if you go out that way and go down the stairs, there are trophies down there. They're up for grabs. Donations are welcome, but not mandatory or necessary. And for those of you that were here last night, came back tonight, there's another program tomorrow. So thank you very much, everyone. Good night.